Hello and welcome to my latest cleaning video. So this time we're going to be taking our second and final look through these vintage digit paperbacks. Now I absolutely love these and I've been collecting them on and off for about 20 years. This is the sort of the second half of my collection, and these particular books, these are sort of the early to mid 60s titles, right up to when the line petered out at around sort of 67, 68, and there's some really cool stuff. So all we're going to do, picking up the numbering from R515, which is where we left it last time, I'm just going to zoom through these and check for any sort of markings inside. And if we do see any of that, I'll try and clean them as we go. And then I'm going to rub the top edges and just do any sort of running repairs that may be needed. Bit of a worn copy, that one, by Side Bounds, but that's okay. So I don't foresee this video taking, much longer than an hour. I wouldn't have thought, but that's okay because these are all part of it. Now this has got a 303 in there, so as I said, we'll just work our way through these logically. They're all in sort of series numerical order, but they're not. They've not all been cleaned, and basically that's because, as these have come my way over the years, I've just sort of slipped them in. I've made a little note of the ones that I've got, and I've sort of slipped them in. So around this sort of time, Digit themselves as a publisher were publishing all manner of stuff. So they had quite a nice little sci-fi list. They had a mixture of sort of war titles like that one there, because the sort of war fiction and non-fiction was still really popular back then. But it's mainly for their sci-fi that I sort of really like it. They did like an odd, there's an odd horror or two. There's a bit of movie tie-in, and then they even did a couple of books sort of looking at pop artists. I think I don't know if it'll be in this one, but there's quite a nice book on Elvis. Here's one, Equator, Brian Aldiss. And most of my digits, certainly when I first started collecting them, these were picked up. That's a really tatty one. They were picked up basically from, on my travels. So they would be from boot sales or garage sales in the States. I picked them up from charity shops or thrift stores, as we call them. And or they just turn up in the odd collection, God, they're quite dusty on the top there. Wow, look at that. Incredible. So what I'll do, I'll zoom through these and then we'll go back over them, and I'm going to give all the covers a polish. So yeah, that's what I used to do. So none of these have really been bought specifically to add to my paperback collection. They've just sort of come my way, and they've become part of my overall vintage paperback collection. I really, really do have quite a soft spot for them. I think in total there's about 850 to 900 before the line petered out. And I have got a list of them all. It does exist if someone was to want to try and collect the whole lot. I certainly don't feel the desire to do that. A couple of bent over corners here. But certainly when I come across them, I'm definitely going to add them to my collection because I think they are a lot of fun, as I'm sure you'll agree. So these haven't been brushed yet. One Step Beyond, this was the American TV show, wasn't it? A bit like the Twilight Zone, sort of stories with a bit of a twist at the end. The Man with Only One Head. Oh, how many heads do you need? And some of these aren't bad. A couple of them just need a little bit of minor work, but you can see that these aren't sort of collectible, super high grade collectible copies. In a lot of cases they are just a copy to have in the collection, but they're really of their time. Got great cover art. They've got a lot going for them, these. And a classic, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Okay, let's give these a brushing down. So yeah, Digit were part of the Brown-Watson group. So Brown-Watson didn't sort of peter out when their paperback line finished. They did carry on, and they produced hardback annuals, amongst other things, in the UK for quite a while. That was definitely one of the things they were known for. There we are. And these will be all the better for having a good clean, I'll tell you that. The United Planets. This is really cool stuff, isn't it? Very, very enjoyable, these sorts of books. Quite pulpy in their own way, you know. Oh, Sherlock Holmes. And if you remember, the early books were almost exclusively all war titles to begin with, but then they sort of expanded their genres. This is a great one by John Burke here. Look at that, Pursuit Through Time. Very of the period, you know. That's what we like. Not the greatest of copies once again, but still a lovely one. Salamander War, Charles Carr. The World in Reverse. Luan Ranzetta. Now that's not a name that you would associate with science fiction, is it? I would say that's almost certainly a pseudonym of somebody. And there's a name we do know. That is Leslie Charteris, creator of The Saint, Daredevil. Now the Saint books are still pretty good, you know. I don't mind Leslie Charteris. They are very readable still. I think that's probably because he started writing for the pulp magazines in America. And when you wrote for the pulp, you had to sort of get straight to the point. You couldn't beat around the bush, as it were. And Charteris knew how to pen a really sort of exciting adventure. A lot of the Saint novels, in fact, are like 3 or 4 short Saint stories from the pulps that have been put into book form, in actual fact. They're not standalone long stories per se. The Day Khrushchev Panicked. This is a non-fiction title. Sort of a Cold War one, which was obviously happening in this period. Lovely. This is an Edgar Wallace. It's a nice tight copy. Sometimes you get lucky and you find Digit books in exceptional condition, and this is one of those. This Edgar Wallace one's really terrific. Very, very nice condition copy, that. The Secret Battle, A.P. Herbert. Now this one needs a bit of gluing on the bottom of the spine. This must have been one that I picked up fairly recently. It's in a slightly sorry state. But it's one I've not got. It's got a name inside. But predominantly, it's got that little bit of bottom of the spine there, which we're going to glue down, since that's why we're here. So I've just got my Mr. Pritt stick, and I just get a little bit of glue on the end of the flathead screwdriver, just so I can, with precision, pop a bit of glue in there. And I actually need a second bit, but this should be enough just to keep it in place. That's the main thing. Where are we? There we are. I give that a press down like so. There we are. Now a bit of glue's popped out at the end, but that's fine because it's Pritt sticks. You just rub it in your hands and it's gone. But that bit of loose spine now has been sorted out, and that was what we wanted to do. The Voice from Baru. Baru who? Tom Wade. This one's got a bit of cover luster to it, so that'll polish up quite nicely. That, in fact, quite a lot of these are going to benefit from a nice polish up at the end. The Secret House, another Edgar Wallace. I think there they've tried to sort of copy a little bit of the James Bond look that was going around. Because by this point, James Bond was a huge sensation in the world of publishing. And every publisher wanted their own James Bond. Defiance, Kenneth Balmer. So these digit books are not perhaps the best made books. They're not printed on the best sort of quality paper at all. And even when they're brand new, they're hardly like setting the world on fire with their manufacture. But I think they do have quite a few redeeming features, predominantly the great and sometimes garish cover art. I think that's one of their greatest strengths. There are some good books in here as well. The very rarest digit book, sadly, I don't have, which is Junkie by William S. Burroughs, which had it was an American ace double, but in Britain it was published as a digit book, and it's a very, very scarce digit book at that. I'm trying to remember, the last one I think sold for about £160, and it was pretty beaten up, and I just am convinced I'm going to come across one cheap. It would just be on the shelf, in some sort of charity shop or something like that, and that would be super cool. But sadly, got loads of dust on that. It's never happened to me. That was a particularly satisfying bit of rubbing there. Here's another Edgar Wallace, another really nice condition one as well. The River of Stars. Lovely. Kenneth Balmer again, City Under the Sea. Nice stuff. When the Moon Died, Richard Savage. That's a nice little jacket, isn't it? One of the most startling novels of all time. So they say. Yeah, nice copy of that one. Here's one of those pop ones I was on about. Teenage Idols. The fabulous world of pop entertainment. With 32 pages of illustrations. I had a couple of copies of this one. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Nice stuff. Yeah, it's a good one, that. I'm just noticing that tiny corner there has just popped out, so I'm going to put the tiniest little slither of glue in there, because this is one of the more expensive digits. I seem to remember the last copy of this one I've sold, because I did have a double of this one. I think it went for about £15, and I think it was an Elvis collector who picked it up, because it's got a really nice full Elvis cover. So when Elvis appeared on TV, they would often only show him from the waist up, because his gyrations of his legs were so they weren't considered they considered a bit risque on primetime TV, if you can believe it. My mum was a big Elvis fan. She liked all those from that sort of generation. Elvis, and then the Everly Brothers was her two artists. Simon Luther. Yeah, these aren't too bad. And we're getting through them at a reasonable pace, so I'm pleased with that. Quite a bit of dust off that one. Lovely. So once each sort of shelf has been done, I'm going to try and make a concerted effort to try and vacuum each shelf once a year, just to keep most of the surface dust that might have settled in 12 months off them. That is sort of my plan, really, which is why systematically I need to go through and do the whole lot, because some of these are very much looking the worse for wear. I did one recently and on my other channel, and some of the books had like cobwebs on, but they weren't from my collection. They're ones that I bought recently in a job lot. So, but they was an example of they do need a really sort of big clean. So I have got another channel, my main channel, and that's quite a varied collection of books and new books and cleaning books, book pickups, and I do some gaming, and I talk about all sorts really. And it's a real mishmash of stuff, sort of pop culture collectibles, that sort of thing, and a bit of Star Wars and old toys. This is a very nice gothic one. So do check out my other channel. It's just Jules Burt, and there's always a link to it at the end or down below if you want to see what else I get up to. But I'm having this one as my sort of dedicated cleaning channel. I'm having a great time doing it. I have now, you'll be pleased to hear, almost at the stage where I can use my dedicated studio. And when that happens, I should hopefully be able to do brand new original content once a week, which I know is what everyone wants to see. And I've got an awful lot of stuff planned for that time. But at the moment, the studio is about half done. The building is built and it's powered up, but I've yet to build the set. But that's going to be coming in early 2022, and then from then on, I think we're going to have some great videos going forward. Right, another cool sci-fi one here, Split Image, a novel of interplanetary menace. Cool as you like. A little bit of pen inside here, pencil rather, I should say. And I'd say we're about halfway through the books that we're going to be looking at today. And then, of course, once they've been cleaned, as I said, they're going to need a polish. But I'm hoping that this video won't be extremely long. I did, on my other channel, I picked up a huge collection of Belmont Tower paperbacks. These are American ones, really sort of crazy titles. And I had a blast cleaning them, but the video was over 2 hours long. And you know, I thought about splitting it into 2 parts, but I just wanted to do the entire publisher in one hit. And they are fantastic, don't get me wrong, but they were quite something to clean. This one I remember having this one a long time. Corpus Earthling. Lovely jacket on that one. That's what I do when my missus is shouting. 1,000 Ages. A nice run of cool sci-fi here, aren't they? I remember when I started picking up digits, they were so few and far between that I would never really, I thought, God, what's this, you know? They really were. This is pre-internet days, of course, when you would see stuff online. They really were quite something. I thought, these are really mad. A bit like the Badger books, which I like as well. I put them in a similar sort of way, that frequency that I would pick them up. These and Badger books, very, very, very similar. Okay. Don't get very many big books with Digit. They're generally all pretty uniform in size, about 150 pages. So very, very rarely do you get anything beyond that. Excellent. Shadows on the Landing. This is another one which will be really nice once it's had a bit of a polish. Because it's just sort of lacking a little bit of like luster. It's okay, but it just needs that final little touch. Another Edgar Wallace. We've seen a few of his today, actually. I think I bought these Edgar Wallaces off a chap who was disposing of quite a big paperback collection. And they were really, the most memorable thing about them was that they'd only been read on the whole once. So they were in really, really great sort of original owner condition. Nice one, isn't it? It's by one of my favourite cover artists, Peff. You see the little signature there? That's short for Samuel Peffer. And I met Peff in the 90s and got him to sign some of my books. In fact, I think later on we will have a signed cover by the cover artist Sam Peff on one of the 60s ones that I've got. This is another interesting. So I did a video on digit books, my collection, a couple of years ago now, and one chap contacted me, and it was his dad who was the cornet player, and I was able to send him, because a friend of mine, Tim, has got Peff's original sort of photograph reference collection, all the negatives. We found the original negative that Peff used to do that cover, and it was of this guy's dad, and we sent it to him. How amazing was that, eh? Blue Hand. Another Edgar Wallace. Do one more here. The Otan Plot. Wow, that's a nice condition. That would appear to be unread. All pretty nice condition, that little lot. Let's grab the old brush a minute. Lovely, quite a lot of dust on them, but nothing that we couldn't dust off really, really easily. This shoe brush has been a real revelation, because traditionally I would just use this toothbrush for more like accurate brushing, but this shoe brush has been fantastic because you can get a little wedge done in one like little hit. Right then, Creatures of the Mist. This seems to be a very common one. This was probably produced with that cover on the back of the Planet of the Apes movies, which were obviously very popular at the time. Another very common one here. I see this one online quite often. Another nice Edgar Wallace. They were from that collection. I remember them now. I did very, very well. I had some lovely digits and some Fontana books. And some nice pans, which I upgraded. God, that's another beauty. That's lovely, isn't it? Looking at the cover artist, it looks like Rayo, which is not one I recognise. Oh, that's got a printing defect on it, look. So I should just leave that exactly as is. The Peacemakers. Curtis W. Casewit. What sort of a name is that? Curtis Casewit. Islands in the Sky. Well, that's a great name. Arthur C. Clarke. We really like him. I've always liked Arthur C. Clarke's books. Let's give these a brush off. Lovely. nice sort of little wedge here. Claws of the Night, that's a cracker, isn't it? Vern Hansen. That's a nice sort of terror one, isn't it, that? Wow. Split. Another nice bold cover. They've definitely upped their game, haven't they, with these later ones? Ah, this is the one that was signed by Pef. So you see, that's his signature on the cover, and that's his signature in silver there. I met him at one of the paperback shows in the early 1990s, and everything I had that I could find at the time, which had a Pef cover, I took along to get signed by him, and he was more than generous to have a chuckle, look at some of his old book covers and sign everything that I put in front of him. Such a great guy. One of my most treasured ones is my copy of Dr. No, which I got him to sign. He did the original jacket to that one. A couple of them are looking quite grubby on top there. Let's get the base and the sides done. Lovely. Oh yes, quite a little plume of dust coming off there. Lovely. Now the last little batch here. Nightmare Cottage. Another one of those sort of slightly Gothic looking ones, but not actually a Gothic. Another horror one. I think this is possibly an anthology. Yeah, look, it's got a big £3.50 in, so get rid of that. It's not very nice. Quite unbecoming of such a book. £3.50, blimey. It's actually quite expensive, isn't it, for a second-hand book, which is not in the greatest of shape. It's actually got, you know, it's been well read. It's almost got like water damage on the side, so that the edges will do well to have a dust off. But yeah, quite a scarce one, I'm guessing. Oh, and a Pef cover. Oh, here's another Pef cover, so also signed by him, Ernest Dudley. So I need to be careful when I polish those two signed ones. Mantissa of Death. The Iron and the Anger. Oh, that's got a big 5 inside. 5p, who can tell? Gone in a moment. There we are. No stars for us. Oh, it's got a pound inside as well, and the cover is slightly bent over. Let's get that little pound out. It's so nice to be able to look at these and know that the collection has been really well cleaned, and I can go and pick any of them up, and they're basically as clean as I'm going to be able to make them. And then the last one is Dream of Death. Looks like a romancy one, which they didn't do a lot of, did they, Digits? So this was their last sort of hurrah, really. That's number 929. So let's give these tops up, going over, like so. Lovely. There we go, and then the final top edges, and that's these basically cleaned, and all we need to do now, so internally they're fine, we've done all the edges so that those are really looking much better, aren't they? So really all we need to do now is give the covers a little polishing up. So all I really do when I polish my books is I've got this Mr. Sheen, which is a multi-surface like furniture polish in the UK. I've still yet to find out what the American sort of equivalent is of Mr. Sheen. But what I do, I get this really used soft cloth, one that I've had for quite a few years now, and I really give it the treatment, like so. And then once the cloth is sort of impregnated, as it were, then I run them through, like so. So nothing too complicated, but it is an easy old process, and one that's just off the one book, that lot of dirt. So it does dig out and bring up lots of sort of invisible dirt. Now, if the book is really tatty to begin with, there's not really going to be a lot that I'm going to be able to do with it. But at least you know that it's a bit cleaner than before I started. And what it will take is for the rag to get really, it will take multiple sprays, as it were, for the rag to get fully impregnated with the Mr. Sheen, and then that makes a huge difference, as you will see. This very much is the final part of the process. And on some books you can visibly see them lightening up. Other ones, unfortunately, they're going to be too far gone to be able to do much with. But at least you know you've done the best that you can with the book that you've got in front of you. And that's really all you can do. Look at that, I've only done 6 books, but look how they, the dirt that's come off those, it's quite incredible, isn't it? But I won't spend hours and hours on these because they just don't need it. But they do just need that little bit of attention, that's all. Just to finish some of these off as nicely as possible. So this is one that instantly seemed to brighten up when I put the cloth over it. And that was covering lots of hidden muck by the looks of it. A man with only one head. So I'd be interested to know if you watching this video and you collect digit books, have you got Junkie, that very, very rare one? I'd like to know if you did have. I don't actually personally know anyone who's got a copy, although I think actually one of my viewers on my other channel sent in, I do a sort of a semi-regular feature called Viewer Collections, and where I feature other people's collections. And someone had a copy there, I think, of Junkie, and I was pretty impressed. So far, in all my years of collecting, I've never come across one in the wild. I've not even sort of come across one in a dealer's bookshop, someone who, put it out for a high price. I've just never even seen one for sale in the flesh. A couple of times I've seen them online, and they always seem to go for big money, even in sort of poor condition, which I'm always disappointed about. But I suppose for some people, if you just wanted to have one, like if I bought one, I'd probably pay 30-40 quid to have one in like semi-reasonable condition, just to say I've got it. But if you wanted to collect one as an investment, you're going to be looking at a couple of £100 for the British one, and maybe more than that for the American edition, the Ace one, which I think is probably a bit more of a well-known sort of collectible. And in the world of paperbacks, there aren't that many sort of key books that you could consider as almost like commodities. If you've got them in very high grade, they're worth X amount of money. I've never sort of gone down that avenue because it just doesn't interest me. I like to collect the books for fun, and if they then prove to be valuable down the line, well, that's all well and good, but I know my own limitations with regards to what I pay for books, and I'm very much of the school of buy in bulk, buy cheap, and get a few bargains within that bulky lot. That's sort of the way I like to do it. Or, pick them up when I'm out and about, which I do all the time, when I'm out and about. I'm never not looking for books. Nice Charteris. Very nice, very nice. All right, that's that stack done. So I'm going to flip these over. For stack number 2. The dirt is expanding. But it's definitely worth doing this process, I think. And it just makes the books a bit nicer to handle when they've been cleaned up properly, I think. Really nice one, that's come up lovely. Which is all we're asking. Lovely. These are coming out very nice. I'm pleased with these. They're going to look great on the shelf when I get them back in home, in their spot as it were. I've got a couple of shelves for digit books to house my collection. Like any book collector, I wish I had a bit more room. But I make the most of what I've got, basically. And that's all you can do. I do have the occasional purge where I let some stuff go that I've sort of fallen out of love with a little bit, but not often. Another Minto Edgar Wallace here. Lovely stuff. Lovely. Very nice, that one. Oh, here's Elvis. He has not left the building. It's not just on Elvis, as you can see. This one had bits on lots of different acts of the period. Tell you what, these books are soaking up the Mr. Sheen. They're really using it up. That's okay, I bought 3 bottles the other day. 3 cans. I should get shares. Mr. Sheen's been around for years. But I would be curious if someone could pop in the comments down below what they use, or what is the, say, the American equivalent of Mr. Sheen. I'd genuinely like to know, because I often get asked, so if I could tell people what it is, that would be brilliant. Coming up very, very nicely. Particularly the more minted the book, the better it seems to clean up, because it's just got a smoother surface to play with, you know. At least it just seems that way. And that one's no exception. It's very, very nice. Here's that lovely one we saw, Witch Water. Yeah, real nice one, this. Definitely not been read before, which is always a treat. Yeah, that's expected. It's come out really, really sharp on the front and the back there. Good stuff. Let's get these into a pile here. I think that's probably a really good time to go ahead and thank my Patreon and channel member supporters who make these videos possible. Right then, on the home stretch, just a couple of piles to get sorted, and then we'll all be done for this week's episode. But I've got a few juicy ones still to get cleaned up, or polished up, I should say. And these later ones, because they've got a slightly more glossier cover, seem to be cleaning up even better than I would hope. Taking off all the dirt that's on there, even if you can't really see it, it's definitely on there, and it's lightening them up. A treat. Lovely, coming up very, very nicely now, which is all we could ask, isn't it? them over onto pile number 3 over there. Lovely cover, this one. And that's as close to as mint and red as you're going to get that. Very, very nice. If only they were all like that. Some of the digits got reissued a few different times. This is one of them, the interpreter. I think this got reissued about 3 times, and each time they gave it a new cover. So I guess they just kept sort of reinventing it, but I think this final cover was perhaps the best. It's really, really nice, isn't it, that one? Brian Aldiss. These really are pretty bad, but they're coming up lovely. They'll come out really, really nice, so I can't complain. I'm pleased with how these have come up. Particularly these mint ones, which, you know, just seem fantastic when they've been cleaned properly. This obviously didn't sell at the time. Didn't capture the old imagination. Arthur C. Clarke one there on top. The last sort of dozen or so. A couple of these we need to be super careful because we're not allowed to, we don't want to spray the ones which Pef has signed because we might damage the signature that's on them. And in fact I ought to get those bagged up really now to protect them even more. Which is that one, so I'm just going to slip that straight on top. So I hope you have enjoyed seeing me go through the second part of my digit collection, these sort of mid to late-ish 60s. I think these bottom out around 66, 67 at the very latest. There won't be much past that. I've certainly enjoyed looking through them and giving them a clean, so they do look really great in the old collection. As you know, I'm doing a new video on this channel every single Saturday, so do please tune in next week, as it were, for another video. And if you are hungry for more, there's a little bit of a catalogue building up now on the channel about, as we film this, probably about, I don't know, maybe not quite yet, but maybe almost a dozen videos for you to go through. And of course on my other channel there's lots and lots for you to have a little look at, so that one's also signed. So do head on over there if you're keen to see a bit more book cleaning, or there's some other cleaning as well on there as well. So I do have quite a good time cleaning some of my old Star Wars stuff, some figures and what have you, and some of the ships, which is always cool. I love going through those. If you'd like to support the channel, do please head over to my other channel and hit the channel memberships, or you can find me on Patreon under Jules Barrett. If you've enjoyed today's video, of course, do please give it that thumbs up. Do please hit the subscribe button if you can, if you wouldn't mind, just to get me to 1,000. It's very much appreciated. Thanks very much for watching today as I clean these final digit books, and I shall look forward to seeing you again with another video very soon. Bye.